right. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who is never far away from grabbing the headlines for whatever reasons, is at it again. The former president has decried Nigeria's inability to live up to expectations since independence in 1960. At a function, Obasanjo stressed that the country has not only disappointed itself, but also Africa and the world. It's on record, Obasanjo ruled Nigeria as a military president. Obasanjo pioneered this dispensation from 1999 to 2007. And Obasanjo played a major role in Nigeria history, has played a major role. So what is Obasanjo talking about today?
Well, he's talking about his own failures and the failures of people before and after him. There's no way Obasanjo can say that he's not been part of the problem with our country. Some of the things that he's talking about that have to do with bad leadership and all that, you can even describe him as a champion of bad leadership in terms of the way he ran the country during his time. Obasanjo spent 8 years in office. He didn't solve the problem of electricity. Electricity, the fact that we have not solved the problem of electricity is one of the impediments to economic growth in our country. And you can't say that he didn't have what it took to solve the problem. He didn't think of building power plants until 6 months to leaving office. So what were they doing? What were they doing? They were simply thinking that, oh, those hydro plants that were built many years ago with Kainji at 700 megawatts installed capacity at BAT is what will solve the problem of a country like Nigeria. Population growing rapidly, cities expanding. So when he's talking about the fact that Nigeria that should have provided leadership on the continent has not been able to provide it, that's even a metaphor for the kind of government that he ran. No one is saying that he wasn't saying the truth. Of course, he was saying the truth. But the Yorubas have this proverb that when you point at, like the man sitting in front of me there, when you point at him, other fingers are pointing in your direction. He cannot excuse himself from the misgovernance that we have experienced since independence. He occupies a... Oh, we are alive now when it happened. And even now we are still alive. We can analyze the people, even his own relation. He got the Ministry of Justice to come up with knowledge prosecute. That's Mark Ojola, or what was that man's name? He's part of the problem of Nigeria. Obasanjo is part of the problem. He can write tons of letters. It doesn't change anything. Historians will remember the role that he played. Where he did well, we'll give him credit. Where he failed to do well, and to cap it all, he was looking for a third term. Why are you looking for third term?
He denied it.
Anybody can deny anything.
But the facts
one of his favorite ministers, when he was in government, a man who famously said that if Obasanjo had a chance to choose between his son, his own biological son, and himself, he would choose him. Nasir Ahmad El-Rufai. He said if Obasanjo had the chance to choose between him and Gbenga, his own biological son, that Obasanjo will choose him ahead of Gbenga. He wrote a book, he said it there, how third term was planned. He was the first person who worked for Obasanjo who confessed that indeed there was a plan for third term. Later on, before he died, the former deputy Senate president, Mantu too, confessed that there was indeed a plan for third term.
Oji Okalu.
Oji,
the video.
You can even say Oji, the fought later on, because he did everything to deal with Oji Okalu, including coming after his businesses. So I don't want to mention people that Nigerians say, oh, they were not on good terms. What did you expect? Mantu never fought Obasanjo. There is no history of Mantu fighting Obasanjo, but he confessed that there was plan for third term. Nasir El-Rufai was one of his favorite boys. He never fought Obasanjo. He too confessed. So what are we talking about? Talk is cheap. Anybody can deny. You can slap someone's face now because another person didn't see it. You can deny. People were caught committing crime with their hands in the cookie jar. Do they not go to court and say they refuse to admit their guilt?
Yeah.
So he can say he didn't do it. He can deny. It's just like a man. He went to steal corn in a farm. So he looked to his right. He looked to his left. He checked his back to see if anybody was there. And then he started plucking
The corn.
the corn. So his son, who was with him, said, Daddy, Oshakiyesi pe woke. Said, Dad, you didn't look up. There's somebody up there looking at you. You didn't look up. You looked left and right. And your back. But there's someone there.
God is looking at all of us.
God is looking at all of us. Ayo. Anybody can say, oh, I didn't do it. Oh, it's a lie. He knows in his heart that he wanted third term. He knows. Even the Senate president of that time, he came to us. I've said it before. Nigerians don't know this thing. When they give Senator Nnamani all the credit, we know what happened. As a senior journalist, he invited us to a hotel. And he confessed to us. We were the ones who taught him what to do to make sure that third term failed. Yes, Kayode Komolafe was there. Many of us. At a hotel, we were the ones who coached him what to do in the National Assembly that made third term to fail. I'm not ashamed to say it. We coached them that get the TV stations to bring their cameras. Those who say they want third term, let us see whether they can publicly say this is what our constituencies want. They couldn't do it. After the first day, somebody publicly asked for third term. He said his community wanted it. They burnt his house. After that, no more. That's how third term failed. They can't tell us the story of third term.
So, Olusegun Obasanjo is like the conscience of any administration is always, making sure you look back and is always doing a kind of scrutiny and assessment of any administration.
It is
if
not.
Doesn't grant interview, he will write letter.
It's not in the place of Obasanjo to say Nigeria has failed the world. It's the longest serving individual that God has given the grace to be able to revamp Nigeria and put Nigeria on the right track. But he failed. He served for 11 and a half years, cumulatively, if you add his years as a military. Well, 3.5 years, plus 8 years as a civilian president. But Obasanjo will blame every other person and exonerate himself. $16 billion wasted in the pursuit of electricity. We ended up with less than 3,000 megawatts of electricity under Obasanjo's watch for 8 years. When Obasanjo, somebody was telling me a few days ago that is this man, is he short of writing ink, or he doesn't have a paper?
Okay. You are missing his letters.
They say he has not written anything. But I think he knows that.
So he's planning to write.
Don't forget all the power plants we have today. Obasanjo built it.
Built what?
He started. He didn't
He started
power plant.
that was what I
most of them are outdated now.
Earlier,
He started late.
He made up he didn't, a single one of those plants he didn't finish. It was 6 months to dispatch in December. Somebody going in March. It was in December of 2006 that they started.
Maybe he got inspired late.
And so, but don't come and give him credit for what Jonathan and others did.
See,
it was, look, Egbe here. it was Jonathan that expanded the capacity of Egbe. That's the biggest power plant in
He had
West
the
Africa.
Don't
give him credit for what? You can come up with an idea. Oh, Third Mainland Bridge. Was it IBB that started Third Mainland Bridge? It wasn't IBB. But they call it IBB Bridge today.
Yeah.
The conception and everything didn't start with him.
Look at look at the Penn Cinema Bridge, which Ambode started.
Yes.
I mean,
Is it not Sanwo-Olu that
completed it? So it is not about the person
Buhari didn't start Second Niger Bridge. So Jonathan that started it. But today we praise him. There is not one power plant that Obasanjo finished. I can't let anybody challenge.
He is not in a position. In fact, the people who can talk about where Nigeria is today are the people, the likes of Wole Soyinka, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, or the former Emeka Anyaoku. If they speak and they say, yes, we need to be somewhere.
Those are the real conscience of
Those are the real conscience of not Obasanjo.
Not the problem of the nation.
Because you had an opportunity for 8 years to put us on the right track. You could say, yes, the first time was an aberration, where you didn't have time, you couldn't settle down as a military person, but
he assembled one of the best cabinets. He had started EFCC.
See,
brought
what
best ministers.
How did he end up with EFCC? Let's ask Ribadu now. Ribadu has a story.
Ribadu has a bad story to tell.
That's a bad story to tell.
Debt forgiveness and everything.
Oh, debt forgiveness when you left infrastructure unattended.
So he has a way of
fixing infrastructure,
sugarcoating things. I mean, look at how
other people would rather use that money to fix infrastructure.
So
what did we see?
The moment things don't go his way, you know, he opposed Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as president to the extent that after elections had been concluded, he wrote a letter calling out youths to disrupt the process, urging Buhari to stop the process. And Buhari told him, I don't have that capacity. So, I mean, who is he to tell us, who is Obasanjo to tell us that Nigeria, when he was part of the problem?
He has no moral right to
He hasn't.
pontificate over
like making headlines.
Failures. He's a self-regarding old man. He likes to draw attention to himself. He can't pontificate over places where it matters that he had demonstrated unquantifiable level of failure.
Unlike IBB,
that's what we are saying.
IBB has apologized to Nigerians. Yes, I mean, IBB is still alive. He's apologizing to Nigerians. He will never say he's not part of the problem. He said if he had the opportunity, there are some things he could have done better. Obasanjo will never say that. He will keep condemning everybody except himself.
When he came out he has been like this for so long. When he came out of the army, remember his first book, My Command, where he gave himself nearly all the credit for the Civil War. And the Yoruba say, look, if you do 10% of something, you can't take all the credit.
All the credit.
What else will not be happy to see you appropriate the
General
credit?
Labi Sama to
yes.
Years after.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's trying to give himself.
Yes.
This is a man that when they wanted to make him head of state, he went to hide in a ship. After the coup, he went to hide in a ship. You think we don't remember these things? It's the Nigerians who don't read, who don't remember this, is that he will stand before them and
I can't forget the tragedy of victory.
We are journalists and we remember.
Yes.
And we read.
We are students of history.
And we know it, we understand this.
We'll talk about Nigerian history. Let him come and defend it.
Obasanjo should go and prepare for the next lecture.
Sit down.
Okay.
To be singing lullaby to his grandchildren.
Moving on now. The travails of the suspended